Greetings, fellow scholars. Welcome to your Module 2 Excel report. Congratulations on completing Module 1. You guys did a fantastic job. I loved your Excel reports. They were beautiful and thorough. You had things labeled. The colors were magnificent. You talked about math. Your 5-sentence reports were full of vocabulary and really described the math that we were looking to find in your reports. Excellent, excellent work. Now, hopefully you realize that through those productive struggles of learning how to use Excel and getting more intimate with technology and the struggles of networking and collaborating, you understand that you have added some hot commodities to your resume. Each one of these modules brings you stronger skills in using the technology that employers want you to use, the networking skills, and the abilities to collaborate with others. As you have noticed in your team interviews, it's not easy. You guys are not obligated to stay in the teams that you're in. Some of you there are 3 or 4 groups of 6 people. I like the way that you separated. Everybody couldn't meet at one time, so you created a group of 2, a group of 3. One of you did a group of 3 and a group of 4, and one of you doubled up. A couple of you actually doubled up presentations and earned some extra credit that way. Once you create your presentation, it should be easy to present with multiple groups if you need those extra points. I hope that through this course you're recognizing the math that's around you you've never recognized before. A lot of folks tell me, I always saw that bell-shaped curve, I never knew what it was, so they're excited to learn all of these new things about math. You guys have noticed how this course is set up. It's not cookie-cutter textbook mathematics where we do a chapter of probability, a chapter of statistics, a chapter of finance, a chapter of mathematical modeling. Everything's mingled together just like it is in real life. When you look around you in life, you don't see cookie-cutter mathematics that tells you, hey, this is math, and this is how you solve the problem, and here's the calculator. That's not how it works. In real life, we see statistics, finance, probability. We look at graphs. They're all around us every day, if we know how to recognize them. So as you work through your homework, what you're learning there is a skill that employers want you to have. Employers are never really going to ask you, how many mathematical formulas do you have memorized to solve these problems? Employers would be more interested to know, if I throw a problem in front of you, do you know how to find the resources to solve this problem and present it nicely? That's what an employer would want. So as you guys are working through the homeworks, use the example, get on Google, use all of your resources to help you learn what you need to solve those homework problems. In Module 1, you had 100 homework problems. They were almost all multiple choice, conceptual. You only needed 5 to 10 on your Excel spreadsheet. But then for Module 2, we only have 50 questions, and they almost all require a calculation. A couple of them have multiple steps, but most of them just have a single calculation to do. So your Excel homework scratch paper for this module should have almost 50 problems on it. I'm going to say 30 to 50 problems worked out on this module's Excel. All right, you guys ready to have a look at what our Module 2 Excel report has in store for us? Our week 7, can you guys believe we're already in week 7? We're 33.3% done with the course. We have 2 modules left to go. As you productively struggle through using Excel and collaborating for the work required in this course, just remember we only have 3 modules. That's 3 modules, and in an algebra class, you usually have about 5 chapters, and you have an exam that you would sit down and take to manipulate abstract algebraic algorithms using a calculator. So here we only have 3, and you guys get these videos to watch and replay and work at home in your pajamas if you like. So work through these struggles with gratitude, not frustration, if you can. All right, folks, so here I want to point out a couple of things that I would like to see improve on the next Excel reports. We did a fantastic job keeping things professional. Your guys' videos looked great. There were only just a couple of you that didn't have good lighting. Things were a little dark. Of all 8 of my classes, because the teachers turn in a team teach and you guys do the interview presentations, I only had 1 fan in all those videos. So you guys really paid good attention to the lighting and the background noise. Please don't be afraid on your team interviews to say to someone, hey, can you turn your microphone on mute? Or while you're in the middle of presenting, just if someone's in the middle of talking and you hear an animal or a child in the background, you can just say, Tommy, mute your microphone, please. And they'll go, oh, okay, mute it, and then we'll go on with the presentation. So don't be afraid during your presentations to talk to each other. If somebody drops a cue and they don't know it's their turn, just say, Susie, can you read the next question? It's okay to help each other out like that. Don't be afraid to help each other. That's what we're here for. That's why we're scholars, to improve and learn from each other. And staying on topic. You guys did a great, great job on that. All right, so one of the things that we really missed, we're here where it says show formulas throughout. When you're talking about your Excel, in your Excel report for week 2, you are going to randomly click on some formulas so that we can see what you've been talking about and that you used the formulas. Just click them casually as you're talking and showing us data. We did miss that in the videos. These next Excel reports will be graded with a little more detail. I was really proud of you guys for being able to use the technology and using Zoom. And this time I'm going to expect a little bit more as far as, showing the formulas. And your verbal descriptions were fantastic. Make sure when you guys are talking about your graphs and diagrams that you tell us about percentages, talk about the x-axis and the y-axis. If we're talking about standard deviation, say standard deviation. So just use those vocabulary words. I had a lot of people ask me, where do I get 12 vocabulary words? If you're talking about the graphs and the math that we did in the Excel, you will automatically be using those words. So they're just words to guide you to stay on topic. Very good. You guys' reports were organized and neat. Absolutely. I learned how to do a lot of cool things on Excel that I did not know we could do to improve the aesthetics of our graphs. So great job. And the 5-sentence summaries. When you're writing your 5-sentence summary, try to be thinking ahead to your team presentation or your team interviews. And when you're writing the 5-sentence summary, kind of think about it as, does this sound like an answer to a question? Am I writing 5 sentences that I could actually use to answer a question on my team interview? And then when you get to your team interview, you just get a snippet of that slide and you have your 5-sentence answer for the question that you're going to have asked to you. Work smart and not hard, folks. It's meant that there's no extra work in week 5 except using your snipping tool, getting a picture of your graph, and being able to answer questions that you wrote for yourself. So keep that in mind as you write your 5 questions. All right, I am going to just very briefly roll over what we're going to be doing in each scenario here. For scenario 1, we're going to talk about half-lives of communication. For this Excel, I'm not going to walk you through every single solitary step, but I'm going to get you started, and I will walk you through every step of the 2 new things that we're going to do. Otherwise, it's all the same stuff over and over again. Actually, 3 new things that we're going to do. So when we look at the half-lives of medication, I'm going to work out ibuprofen with you, and we're going to look at the number of half-lives and all of this stuff here. We're going to build a graph, look at the regression line, and then we're going to talk about it. I'm not going to go into too much detail because we're just about to get started on that here in a second. And then in our second scenario, we are going to look at who's telling the truth, gathering data to identify bias and false reports by sources that we trust. This is quite profound. We'll see when we get to it. But we're going to talk about our genetically engineered crops that we grow in America, and we're going to look at the correlation between those crops and the deterioration of America's health. We're going to talk about the difference between correlation and causation and why we need to know the difference between those 2. In our scenario, what are we on? Scenario 3. We're going to be looking at statistics on impaired drinking, impaired driving. First, we're going to look at statistics on fatalities in vehicles, and then we're going to look at reaction times for people with a certain blood alcohol level, and then we're going to look at some data on impaired driving. Our data on impaired driving, we're also going to be talking about population samples. When we look at the data, we're going to explore the data in a Venn diagram. The Venn diagram is going to be a little bit more fun to create than the last one. I think you guys will like it better. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But this data is actually coming from British Columbia, and we're going to talk about whether or not we think we can use the information from British Columbia to project onto our population here in America. So we're actually going to talk about populations and samples here in number 3 also. Number 4, we're going to observe and describe distributions about data of texting and driving. We're going to look at 3 different age groups, and here we're going to do what we did with the mall shoppers and the Army recruits. We are going to build scatter plots with trend lines, box and whisker plots, and bell-shaped curves for each one of those, talk about the data distribution, and do some experiments, what happens when I throw some outliers in there. Then, what are we on here now? Scenario 5, we're going to look at the distribution, the skewed and unequal distribution of America's money. You guys will notice over here on the right-hand side, we have a graph that we did previously see in our Module 1 Excel report. We're going to look at that again briefly, but we're going to look at some other more detailed data about America's income distribution. And then also in number 5, we are going to look at where our taxes go. Where do our federal taxes go and where do our state taxes go? And then in scenario 6, we are going to follow a link. I like to try to keep number 6 the easiest, so it's kind of a relief at the end. And this one is not only easy, but also very interesting and applicable to you right now, because it's about tax time, isn't it? And this is going to help us see what are the benefits of filing one way or another depending on your income. And we're going to even do a little experiment and see what happens if we have a certain annual income and we get a raise. Could it be that we get a raise but we get less money because we pay more taxes? So we're going to look at all that stuff. Guys, this is our Module 2 Excel report. I'm super excited to get started on scenario number 1. So I will see you in the next video. Until then, keep being amazing. You rock.